Hurricanes beat the Islanders last night in just a bizarre game. It was a minor league goalie battle between Pyotr Kochetkov and Marcus Hogberg, and I'm sure neither head coach loved that part of it, but it was entertaining, and the Hurricanes won, so it was good for us. EJ Hradek, I don't know how much he was paying attention to that. He had other things going on. We had the NHL Showcase game on NHL Network with, I believe, was it Montreal and Florida, or was it the Buffalo?
Well, I had both games this weekend. I had Buffalo, Philadelphia on Saturday.
Okay.
We got to see Matvei Michkov as he continues to take off in his post-John Tortorella era. And then I got the Canadians beating up on the Panthers for the third time this year. They play again tomorrow night.
They do. We'll get to Montreal here in a second. But real quick, did John Tortorella talk his way out of that gig in Philadelphia? Because I didn't hear any rumblings of this would be the end. And then Tortorella was like, I don't know how to coach these guys. Did he want out? Because it almost seemed like he euthanized himself there.
Yeah, I did the Flyers game last weekend as well. They played Chicago, and they didn't play very well. They lost 7-4, I think it was. That was just the game prior to the game against the Leafs, when they also gave up 7 goals, and that proved to be his last game behind the bench. He looked really just pained. At one point, I wanted us to just put together a montage of expression shots behind the bench, because he really looked like he was in physical pain during the game. I don't think he had any answers. I've heard rumblings that Torts has wanted to move into kind of hockey ops for a team, and I think there was some of that in Columbus, and now there has been some of that in Philly. And, he's one of those guys that I think everybody sees as a coach. For better or worse, they just don't see him, or at least in those particular places, they don't see him in a different role. So at the end of the day, the team and Tortorella, they part ways. They make the decision to move on, and they elevated Brad Shaw. I mean, I think Torts did a lot of good things there. I mean, that team, when he took over, they had lost their identity as a franchise to me. I would go to games in Philly, and it was like I was going to the movies. I didn't really know, like you go to games in certain places, and you know what you're there for.
Right.
And I think John did bring that kind of, we're a hard-working team that will get physical, when necessary, back to Philadelphia. I mean, it's a different era. There's not the Broad Street Bullies anymore, but, certainly they played much harder under John Tortorella. And, so you got to give them the credit for that. The team has had no goaltending. You just talked about bad goaltending in the game with Carolina and the Islanders. I mean, the game I did, they had Ivan Fedotov. I mean, they might as well just gone with 6 attackers. I mean, it was not good. And so these kind of things wear a guy out. And this is what I'll be curious to see what they do next, Adam, is because, they can talk all they want. They're still rebuilding. This is still not – it's going to take some time still. They have a bunch of draft picks this year. They can beat their chest and say they're going to go into free agency and try to sign players, but the difference makers are not available almost all the time by a free agency. So they're going to have to continue to rebuild. And, maybe they're better off just keeping Brad Shaw as their head coach because, when you bring in a Joel Quenneville or a David Carl, who's a hot commodity out of the college ranks, you are really jacking up the expectations for your team. And so maybe continue the rebuild, continue with Brad Shaw. You're not paying him a ton of money. He's someone that's had a lot of experience in the league, and why not just go in that direction? So we'll see what they do, but I think to answer your question, I just think that it was inevitable. I think he probably would have been gone at the end of the year, and I think it got accelerated by some of the things that happened. At the end of the year, he had that back and forth with Cam York as well, one of their defensemen, and that apparently was another part of this whole end of the story.
EJ Hradek, NHL Network, is joining us here. First shift, NHL Network starts at 4. He does the games on the weekend as well at EJ Hradek _NHL on Twitter. I get a lot of questions asking. Carolina's got $35 million basically to spend on the salary cap next year. That's 2 years before it really tops out when we go to almost $115 million as a salary cap. Not even sure where they're going to spend all this money. But so people have asked me, who can Carolina go after? It's not a great free agent class. The top free agents would have been Leon Draisaitl and Mikko Rantanen. Draisaitl signed last year. We all know what happened with Rantanen. Sam Bennett's going to be a free agent. I know Mitch Marner is a free agent, but do you see Mitch Marner leaving Toronto?
I don't, but I think there will be teams if he gets to July 1st. I mean, the good news for the Marner camp is there will be teams that will, up the price for Mitch Marner and make significant offers. And now if he goes to July 1st, as you guys well know, there's difference between a 7-year deal and an 8-year deal. So that changes the dynamic of things for him. But if he gets to the 1st of July, there will be teams that are interested. They will jack up the price, and that will force the Toronto Maple Leafs to make a real hard decision. I think, a lot will be determined by, how things go for the Leafs in the coming playoffs, right? I mean, we know the story. They have, I guess, underachieved with the star power that they have up front. I would still argue that they're a team that's not, I think they're more of a contender now with the group they have than they've been in the past couple of years. But the bottom line is that, if he performs well, there'll be a real desire to keep him and pay him. If he performs poorly in the playoffs and the team underachieves, that could change the dynamic of what's going on there. Now, he's been very clear that he loves playing in Toronto. He's the hometown guy there, and I don't see him leaving. But, Adam, strange things happen when it comes to money, right? And, we'll wait and see. He's not signed yet. I always say, until a guy's signed, he's not signed, right? So at the end of the day, we'll see how it plays out. But I think unless they somehow come to terms, between now and the end of the regular season, I'm just going to assume that we're going to wait and see how the playoffs go, and then the negotiation will start.
The Maple Leafs are already paying Austin Matthews more than $13 million. They're paying William Nylander $11.5 million. They probably can't keep both Marner and John Tavares. Tavares is probably not going to command the $11 million he commanded. It'll be significantly below that, but still probably not going to keep both because you've got a whole bunch of other positions to deal with. I think Michael Nyes is going to get paid in this offseason. Yep. Would Mitch Marner fit as a Hurricane?
Well, Adam, I would think that's a better question for you to answer because you watch the Hurricanes on a day-to-day basis. I mean, I think he's a really talented player. I think that, he's someone, that can play in excess of 20 minutes a night, and he does a lot of different things. I mean, I think with really good players, you could find place, they should be able to fit in your group. So I guess the answer I would have from afar is yes. But, you might have a different take on it because you've watched Roddy's teams and we had all that discussion about Mikko Rantanen. I mean, was he really a fit? I mean, at the end of the day, Mikko Rantanen's a really good player. If he was really willing to stay and play there, I think that would have changed the dynamic of things. But, it was pretty clear that, in the end, he wanted to do something else. And when you're not, when you don't want to be somewhere, it's just not going to work out.
Correct. I'm not sure that Rantanen fit Carolina's preferred play style. I think Marner is closer to it because I think Marner is an excellent defensive player who has obviously a super high level of offensive skill to his game, and he's super fast. I lean towards I think Marner would fit, and I know that Tom Dundon, he's got it. People are going to have to get paid, and Carolina is going to have about $35 million under the cap, and probably only 6, maybe 7 players to spend it on. So and they're not going to spend $6-7 million on 6 different players. That's not the way I think they'll go after a top forward. It might be a trade. doesn't have to be a free agent, but I also think that they will go after maybe a more established defenseman to pair with Jacob Slavin on a top line. Probably 2 rookies in the lineup next year. EJ Hradek is joining us here on the Adam Gold Show. Real quick, the wild card 2. I think Ottawa is an absolute mortal lock to make the playoffs as wild card 1. I don't envy the Atlantic Division side of this bracket. That is going to be an absolute free-for-all, and I think Ottawa is good if the goaltending holds up. But how do you handicap wild card 2 with Montreal? Like it just seems like the Rangers can't lose enough to not be right in the mix. Tied with Montreal, Montreal's got 1 game in hand, but Columbus has 2 games in hand. They're only 2 points back. They have gone kind of on the skids lately. Detroit and the Islanders are still there. How do you handicap that?
Boy, Adam, I mean, you ask tough questions.
Thanks.
Because, I mean, this has been – I mean, I'll look at it the positive way. I mean, 2 of these teams are hot. The Canadians and the Rangers have each won in a row, right? They're hot. And, the Canadians would be happy just to play the Florida Panthers every game, I guess.
Sure.
Because, like I said, they've won 3 of the games. They play them tomorrow. It's hard to say. I mean, the Rangers have played more games than the other teams. Columbus has 2 games in hand, actually, on the Rangers. The Columbus Blue Jackets and the Islanders finished the season against one another in Columbus. The Rangers finished the season at home against Tampa. They come down and visit you guys. They're at Florida. They've got a really important game with the Islanders, who they have beaten, I think, 3 times this year. It's really hard to say. I mean, I think, Montreal has had such a weird year. I mean, they started off poorly. Then they went on a really good stretch where they played very, very well. Then they went in another downturn. I think they were like 1-8-1 or something of that nature. Then they got hot again after the 4 Nations. And, it's just been up and down. But it's just, I'll tell you, it's just really hard for me to say. I just think there's 8, 9, 10 games left for all these teams. If any of them could win 5 out of their last 8, 9, 10 games, they're going to be in, unless something changes, because all these teams, I mean, the Red Wings have just a brutal schedule, and they should be long out of it with that schedule here, and they haven't played well. At least they have an excuse. They've had hard games. I mean, think of their finish. They go to St. Louis tomorrow. St. Louis is one of the hottest team. They are the hottest team in the league right now. Then they play you guys. Then they got Florida, at Montreal, at Florida, at Tampa, Dallas, at New Jersey, at Toronto. I mean, I don't see any easy games for the Red Wings, so I'm going to say they're not going to make it. The Islanders, you can count them out at your peril, because as soon as you think they're done, they come back again. I don't know why they didn't just play Sorokin yesterday. I know they've had a tough schedule, but I would have just played Sorokin in that game. Columbus has 10 games left, so they have opportunity. They've got 2 with Ottawa. And as you said, I think you're right. Ottawa is a good team. And I think Ullmark is playing well. And, look at the scenarios in the Atlantic, because obviously it's a battle for the top spot. Now, Toronto has created a little space. But what a gift for the Leafs if they finish first. Yeah, they avoid Tampa or Florida, but then they get to play the Ottawa Senators in the Battle of Ontario, where the Senators will have absolutely nothing to lose.
Yeah, I'll bet.
To your point, they're a good team.
Yeah, I'll bet the Senators tomorrow. If you tell me that's the matchup, I think I would want no part of that team in an opening round series. No part of them.
No, none. Because, like you said, Ullmark is, he's a good goalie, and he's had some struggles in the playoffs, but he seems healthy and playing well right now. The best part for the Ottawa Senators, like I said, is they have absolutely nothing to lose in a playoff series. They're just going to go play and just be loose, and so they can play physical, and they've got some really talented players on that roster. And I really love what Steve Stamkos did at the deadline. I mean, to add the players he was able to add, I think fit right in with how you want to play in the playoffs. So, I mean, that's going to be no joy. Right? It's just really. When people ask about winning the Stanley Cup this year, I say, listen, the Washington Capitals are in a good spot. Now, your team in Carolina could be in a good spot too if you can beat Washington. I think you'll beat New Jersey, and I think Washington will win in the first round. But whoever wins that series, if it plays out that way, goes to the Eastern Conference Final.
Right.
So, I mean, it's a much better path on paper than you have in the Atlantic, which could be just a nightmare.
Yeah, it could be. And
so,
the way it also looks is that, Carolina is a comfortable second place right now. Carolina could end up with home ice advantage over whoever wins comes out of that side of the bracket. Because those teams are kind of just sort of treading water. We got, Toronto, Tampa, and Florida all 92, 91 points. Carolina's at 94. All right, Carolina's kind of just in a little bit in third gear. They haven't even gotten. They had played I think they have played very well. Even the loss to Nashville, Carolina was excellent in the game and just didn't get good goaltending from Pyotr Kochetkov. Final thing for E.J. Hradek. Dallas the best team?
I don't think so. I mean, Dallas, they got to get Heiskanen back.
Yeah.
And I like their team. I got to see them early in the year, obviously before they ended up with Rantanen and made some of the other moves. I still think, and Robertson is playing great now. He came off surgery in the offseason. He didn't play well at the start, but he's on fire right now. Johnston is playing good. I think this team is going to win a Stanley Cup at some point in the next several years because they're just loaded with good players and a lot of young players. But I'm going to have to see it. They're going to have to, they're going to have a nightmare first round matchup, and they may be without Heiskanen for that matchup against Colorado. So, That's a really hard ask. Then they get the winner of maybe Winnipeg, St. Louis. St. Louis could be a wild card. They're kind of like Ottawa.
They
in
are.
The West. So, I just think I think the path in the Pacific is probably easier, just like the path in the Metro is easier.
Yeah.
I think Vegas, I don't know where Hurdle is at. I know he got hurt. I got to get an update on that, but Vegas, I've always liked Vegas because I like the structure of their team. And, we'll see. Edmonton's got some challenges. I don't think their roster is as good as it was last year. L.A. has played really well, particularly at home, but, I don't know if I'm a believer when it comes to those really top teams against L.A. So, I like Vegas, but Dallas is there. If Dallas can beat Colorado, the door is open for them, but that's a tough task when you're missing your number one defenseman. I don't care how you play in the regular season. In a 7-game series, you need Miro Heiskanen. That'd be like Colorado without Makar, so that would be a challenge.
Yeah, Hurricanes without Jacob Slavin, which, frankly, I don't even want to think about that.
Don't even think about it.
Nope, can't do it. He has been Carolina.
One more time for Freddie Anderson. Is it one more go-round?
Yeah, it's trending that way. Pyotr hadn't played well the last 3 games, I think if you poured truth serum down the throat of Rod Brind'amour right now and asked him who would start Game 1, I think he'd say Freddie. I think they would want it to be Pyotr, but he's got to earn that again, and the last 3 games have been no good. And Freddie has played very well, and they are definitely managing. They're managing him right now, so he's not going to play 2 in a row the rest of the way. And I bet because it would go with him going the last game, he ain't going to play the last game. So his last game will be game 80, and then he'll have a few days off, probably a week off, full week off before Game 1 of the Stanley Cup playoffs. So I think it will be Anderson, but I think they'll use both more liberally than they have in the past. I don't think it'll be Freddie.
Yeah, well, it'll be a great story for both the Hurricanes after the kind of up and down year with, the rant and the trade and all the things that went with that. The team has performed very well. They're going to be over 100 points again.
Yeah.
And, Freddie's a good guy. I've had him on our show, and I root for all these guys. I want them to do well, but we have to tell the fans what we see. And, last year it was a real struggle for him. Hopefully, he'll be fit, and it'd be a great story to see him and the Canes have a really good run this year and maybe get all the way to the end.
Yeah, I think he ran out of gas last year, so I think that's up to Rod and everybody else to just manage him. And even if you have to, even if Kochetkov isn't playing well, you got to get him in there. EJ Hradek, NHL Network, NHL Tonight, first shift ESPN. Used to be first shift on NHL Network. It's old school. I thank you very much, sir. I'll talk to you soon.
Anytime, Adam. Take care.
You got it. EJ Hradek here.